Welcome to another episode of Live from the Blue Seats. I'm your host, Rob, joined this week by Dave and producer JL. A full pod for you guys this week as we get ready for the return of the Rangers. We're recording on the night before the Rangers return to action against the Philadelphia Flyers. Obviously, the games that are upcoming are less significant than the roster moves that have yet to take place and most likely will take place before the trade deadline, the March 6th trade deadline. But amidst all that, the USA hockey team won a gold medal in thrilling fashion. What a great game, an incredible result, but one that was, of course, not without lots of storylines and discussion and controversy in its aftermath. But before we get to all that, and of course, your questions, Dave, JL, how are you guys doing?
I am so sick of this fucking snow.
Yeah,
I'm done with this fucking snow. And my snowblower did not do anything with this bullshit 20 inches of heavy, wet snow. So I'm just happy that the 12 to 13 inches we were supposed to get this coming weekend has now shifted to rain. I'm so fucking done.
Very scared about the possibility of another storm. I saw some of those forecasts too. JL, you got even more snow. So are you complaining as much as Dave is?
Well, I'm not a senior citizen like Dave is.
Oh, fuck right off.
But no, it's definitely been a lot. I don't mind the snow. I just don't like having to shovel it, every 2 weeks. We got about 29 inches right outside Woodbridge. So, it's been a lot, and it's funny because we got hit with everything right as the other snow that we had just begun to melt. You can actually drive on the roads properly now, and then we got hit with that. And I actually pulled a back muscle doing it too, which, my chiropractor informed me today that I need to go.
Yeah, I didn't get hurt, so who's the old man now,
I was going to say,
yeah. Well, excuse me for being youthful and exuberant.
And pulling your back out.
You're the one with the bad back. I'm sitting pretty. I'm good.
Yeah. Put a sock in it.
Not my fault you set yourself up.
It has been a lot for those of us in the Northeast. I know in other parts of the country, and we do have listeners from all over, maybe a little bit more of a mild winter. I've heard things from some folks in Denver that like we got more snow in that most recent nor'easter than they've gotten all winter. And obviously Denver can be a pretty cold place. So we're getting the brunt of the winter this year. Hopefully March brings some warmer weather, some excitement on the hockey front. Obviously, JL and I are big baseball fans, and I think I'm ready for some baseball. That definitely warms the soul.
And don't forget March Madness.
March Madness too, Dave. I know one of your key events of the year. So we do have those things to look forward to. All right, so let's start with the gold medal. First of all, just a quick and I don't want to rehash. There's been a lot of different, opinions out there, and this is undoubtedly the biggest sports story of the week now. Look, the U.S. does this amazing thing. It wins the gold medal, first time in 46 years since the Miracle on Ice team of 1980. It truly was a great hockey game, and maybe we could talk about that for a minute real quick. Just like, what were your guys' thoughts on the game? I mean, I was pretty riveted. It was kind of exactly what you'd expect. High pace, high intensity. Canada really, really dominated most of the second and third period. But Connor Hellebuyck rightfully, took his place in U.S. hockey history. He put on a legendary performance, and the USA won gold, courtesy of a Jack Hughes overtime winner. But either of you guys first, just thoughts on the game itself.
I have to sit this one out. The game was at 8 a.m. My girls had gymnastics at 9. By the time I got back, game was over.
All right. Dave missed history. JL, what were your thoughts?
Well, first, before I start talking about the men, I got to give, I don't think we talked about it on the last podcast, but shout out to the women's hockey team for basically steamrolling The entire competition.
No, we did. We
Oh, we
did.
did we? Okay.
Yeah, remember
so
I
yeah.
opened with an apology because I forgot to put up game threads
Oh,
for
that's
them
right.
too.
Okay. Well, I
So
do want
we
to.
we
I just want to
mentioned it.
mention. I just want to mention them again because they deserve just as much. They deserve just as much accolades and praise as the men do. Because I think overall, even though the men's is more historic, the women were just absolute barn burners. You
They
know.
allowed 2 goals the entire tournament.
What's that?
Didn't they allow just 2 goals the entire tournament?
Yes.
I think it was
They
one.
steamrolled everybody.
It was
I think
one.
it was
Shut.
2. It was 1 going into the Canada game, and they did allow 1 goal in the Canada game, right? Because
Yeah.
that
Right.
was 1-1 going overtime. Yeah.
So there's that. But so I guess just in terms of just the game itself, I I was laying in bed the whole game because it was 8 in the morning and I'm not accustomed to waking up at 8 in the morning on a Saturday, on a Sunday. So I guess like ultimately when I end up having kids, I'll have to do that. But overall,
Earlier than 8, but yes.
that's
Much
true.
earlier than 8. You're going to get up like 7 times between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.
Fantastic. Thanks for the heads up, gentlemen. So overall, the game was fantastic. I thought, Canada did really put the pressure on. But the thing that I found funny is that people try, and everyone's guilty of this, but you kind of have to put it in perspective. The goalie is part of the team.
Yes.
The defensive aspect is also part of the game. So while the United States might not have, had as many shots or as much time on attack, they still have to defend. And they were very strong defensively in their own zone, cutting out a lot of chances. And I knew I had a feeling that once Matt Boldy scored that first goal, which was incredible, by the way.
Incredible goal.
Especially kind of exposing the whole Taves and Makar pairing. I thought the United States had it in the bag. Not that I was confident that they was 100% they were going to win, but there was something different about this game. See, I harken back to 2010. 2010 kind of felt like, the bomb was going to drop at any moment because while that team was really good, it was obviously silver medal, of course, you could tell there was something missing. This team, this current iteration of the United States men's hockey team, outside of the obvious that they were missing a couple of really skilled players, Adam Fox and, Cole Caulfield and Jason Robertson, it's probably arguably one of the, best teams ever assembled. And that's not a stretch to say. And they were fluid all afternoon, all morning. They were just fluid. You can see that they had an idea of where to go, where to be, what to do with the puck. And they really pushed down on Canada's attack a lot. And also give credit to Connor Hellebuck. I mean, probably one of the best performances I've seen a goaltender have pretty much ever, because Canada really laid it on and he was able to, kind of, be the last man standing for a lot of those goals. And then obviously Jack Hughes, obviously throughout the regular season, during hockey season, we can't stand him. He's a New Jersey Devil. The kid's a punk. But Jack Hughes, the Olympian, I love the kid. He did exactly what, you wanted him to do as an American. I am proud that, granted, there was some other stuff after the fact. We even discussed it that, didn't really seem too keen, but I guess just hockey-wise only, I am very proud to say that I am an American and that is an American-made team and that they won the gold. And those crybaby, whiny Canadians and their fans and the coaches and the players can all put a sock in it. If there's one thing that I will be incredibly arrogant and American about, and I like to use that term loosely, is when the United States, sports-wise, beats another team in an event. Because it's kind of like that's sort of like the cool braggadocious thing to do. It's like, yeah, we're Americans. Hockey's not our thing, and we beat you. Let's go. So I have an enormous sense of pride in that, and I'm very happy about that. I am just through the roof. That was probably one of the best games I've ever seen. And like I said, when Sidney Crosby scored the golden goal in 2010, I was in the same place here in my house, and I was just like sitting dejected because Parise had just tied the game, at the end of the third period with about a minute left to go in the game, and it was just absolute bonkers. The United States ties the game in Canada, Vancouver. There were a lot of Americans there that really created a lot of noise, and then obviously Jerome McGinley found Sidney Crosby, and he was able to put it past Ryan Miller. And I felt very dejected. And then when Hughes scored, I was actually laying down, right? And when obviously I was awake, I was watching it. So this is the thing, okay? And I don't want to ramble too much. So the thing that really annoyed me about the way the cameras were operating in Milan were that they didn't. Normally, when you watch a hockey game, most of the time the camera, the camera that's following the puck, the main camera, it zooms in on the goalie, or sometimes it'll cut to the player that scored the goal. For some reason, I know why they did it. When Hughes scored, it had like a slow zoom out, like the puck had gone out of play, and
Yep.
it's like a second.
I don't think they couldn't tell it went in. It kind of got stuck in the back of the net. It wasn't one of those where it popped out and you could tell right away.
Right.
So I think they did kind of do a slow zoom out, and then it kind of caught the whole celebration in the crowd. But yeah, I mean, weird choice by that from a production standpoint for sure. But that's, hockey can be like that. I mean, the Patrick Kane cup winning goal, like that was one of the weirdest ones, and that was very hard to tell on TV what happened. So unfortunately, that's kind of like the nature of hockey. Like I don't think that was like a conscious choice by the folks producing the game.
Yeah, but overall though, great game. Also, kudos to Kenny Albert, Eddie Olchuk, and Brian Boucher. Absolutely killed it on the men's side. And then you had Kenny Albert and AJ Malesko and I think Jen Botterill. We're doing coverage for the women's. They phenomenal coverage. Kenny Albert, look, I know a lot of us can be critical about him, Tyler, but Kenny Albert just proved that he's still at the top of his game, and we really are blessed to have him as our own here. I'm happy. The other circumstances, if we're going to talk about it, the other circumstances surrounding it, that's different. But in terms of just the game and the fact that they won the gold medal for the first time in 46 years, as an American, I'm incredibly proud and happy that we did that, and we took it from Canada, which makes it so much sweeter. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, so look, to like what you were saying, I thought that the game itself, like the team did play a really good game. It's one thing, look, sometimes the Rangers get goalied, or actually it's more appropriate to talk about it the other way, when the Rangers would win because Igor Shesterkin or Henrik Lundqvist like pulled the game from the fire and they really didn't play well. This is not that. Like the USA team played a really strong game. This was just an all-time push by Canada to tie the game ultimately, then try to take the lead. The U.S. had some chances, though. They obviously got on the power play and almost scored. Jordan Binnington actually made a handful of great saves himself. I agree with you, JL, that they defended really well. I also say that like Nathan McKinnon misses a wide open net, which like you have no one to blame but yourself, right? You got your chance. There was a coverage breakdown or a good bounce. I forget how it happened. And he blew his chance. He had a wide open net. And he's, he's 1A, he's 1B to Connor McDavid's 1A as the best player in the world. And he missed his chance. So, that is what it is. That's sports, especially in a single game elimination for with a trophy or a medal on the line. Like that's how it goes. And that's why, like, I'm with you where any sort of complaints from Canada about like, we got goalied, or, John Cooper going on about how 3-on-3 isn't real hockey. None of those complaints make any sense. And they really are not a good look for Canada.
Of course not. But also just to add to that, they had a 5-on-3 also.
Sure.
We want to dump on JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck for the effort and the performance that they've had with the Rangers this year so far, and rightly so. But those two were arguably some of the the whole United States penalty kill to not give up a power play goal, and especially you don't give up a power play goal against Canada, right?
Yep.
Think about it.
And Sweden, to be fair, right? I mean,
that's Sweden, to be fair.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, and that's look, a lot in these games, a lot of the goals are scored on the power play. It's just like the playoffs. There's not enough room 5-on-5. And so, that special teams plays a huge role. No, look, let's be clear. Like Mike Sullivan, Chris Drury, as the roles that they played, coaching and management, JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, We take absolutely nothing away from them. This is a massive achievement. It's something they will take with them the rest of their lives. They earned it. The team earned it. And it should be celebrated. Now, let's transition to the aftermath, because I think I'm with you, JL. Like, I felt proud and I was excited, and I was watching it with my children, and we watched the whole medal ceremony, and we watched the whole Johnny Gaudreau thing. And I was like, this is great. Like, this is truly a great thing for my kids to see, and for me to share with my family, and for me to feel as a hockey fan and someone who has a really good understanding, even though I wasn't alive, about like the significance of the 1980 team and how difficult it is to win a gold medal, right? Like, all of those things, very much a part of this. And then what happens with the things you see afterwards. And now this is partly a function of being online and just the way that the world has evolved from a social media perspective and a political partisanship perspective and all those different things, right? But you get Kash Patel, of all people, partying in the locker room like he was on the team, and Matthew Tkachuk putting the gold medal on his neck. And you get obviously the Donald Trump phone call and the joke about the women's team, which was the lowest moment out of all of this. And then you get not just the White House visit, which I think is standard operating procedure. And many teams have visited the White House over the last, many decades for a variety of reasons and accomplishments. But then the invite and attendance of the State of the Union, which is an overtly political speech. Like, that is what it is. It is nothing other than that. And you very much have a choice to say, like, you know what, we're going to sit that out because we don't want to be seen as taking a political stance on anything. Right. So like, and I don't want to echo or crib or like, rehash any of the takes. Like the stuff about the women's hockey team, completely classless. And we have not really heard any good apologies from any of the men's players at all.
Jeremy Swayman.
Right. Yes. Right. So there you go. There's one. I have sort of like two thoughts, I guess, that I can just like add to this, that I've sort of been like thinking of in my head. One is that for a sport that is like so steeped in a culture of like the locker room is sacred and this is all about the athletes and blah, 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 hockey, we're the only sport that awards the cup to the players and not the owner. The fact that like Kash Patel's in the locker room to me is just like so beyond the pale. I think that was like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, but also like one of the more insulting things, right? So like, you have a guy in there that played absolutely no part in this. He's not a family member. He's not a staff member. He's not a trainer. He's just a dude. Okay. He's a hockey fan. He supposedly holds a high level government job, although he's not very good at it. B, he's actually a podcaster, and C, he's spending taxpayer money to go party because he's a hockey fan. Right. So like all those things, the fact that he's in the locker room is a fucking joke. And apparently Bill Guerin invited him in. So that's all you need to know about Bill Guerin. Okay, so there's that. And that just is so anathema to what we are supposed to know is of hockey culture, which is like the locker room is sacred. So frankly, I don't ever want to hear another fucking hockey player say, this is a sacred space. Like, we don't let people in here. We don't do this. We're like, no, it's not a sacred space if Kash Patel's allowed in the locker room. That's number one. Number two is the fact that these players were too stupid and or ignorant and or like distracted in their celebration to realize that this went from a patriotic celebration that they earned to something political because of the way Donald Trump approaches things. That's kind of where I'm like, okay, Vincent Trocheck saying like, I can't believe everything gets so political. Like, dude, like that's how it is now. Like, look, like I said, like the president calling teams right after they win is not a new thing. Bill Clinton called the 94 Rangers, believe it or not. There's a clip of it in the film with Brian Leach talking to Bill Clinton. Jimmy Carter called the 1980 Miracle on Ice team after they beat Russia. Walter Mondale was in the locker room, actually, I think after they won the gold medal. There's a clip of that in the Netflix documentary, which I watched a couple nights ago. The Mets in 8, right. So like these things are normal, right? And so I think that no matter what, like you're going to take that phone call, right? I don't expect any player or someone like Bill Guerin or Mike Sullivan to be like, no, we're not answering the phone for the president of the United States, no matter who it is. So fine. You take the call. I'm even fine with the sort of like team level decision to go to the White House. And obviously some guys like sat that out. I think going to the State of the Union was a totally separate thing that should not have been done. And obviously the way they handled the joke about the women's team, we've already discussed that. The last thing I'll say is that I actually, in thinking about this, it's really like a weird juxtaposition when you think about this team and sort of like the way that this should be sort of a legendary accomplishment alongside the 1980 team, right? Like you feel like that's something that they would have earned because it is a rare thing for a USA hockey team to win a gold medal. It's been 46 years. But the reason that the 1980 team is so revered is because there was nothing political about them. Like they really were just like this band of kids from, the few places that cared about hockey. And their opponent was the political tool. The Russians were the political tool. They were the pros paid by their government to sort of go on tour around the world as a show of Soviet strength, right? And dominance. And the team of kids just beat them and had fun doing it. And that's what brought the country together. And so now for these guys to allow themselves to become political pawns, the way that the Soviet team in 1980 were the political pawns, that to me turns the whole thing on its head. And that's what cheapens the accomplishment. And I hate to say it, but like, I am not going to be able to 40 years from now, watch a documentary about the 2026 Olympic team the way I can about the 1980 team. And by the way, I know a lot of those guys don't have politics that I would agree with. Like Michael Eruzione is a big MAGA guy, but what they accomplished in that moment and what it meant for the country in a non-political way had real significance. Whereas what happened with this team in the current climate, right? I think, and the way they've handled it in the aftermath really cheapens the accomplishment. So again, I know I said a lot there, but that's just was the thing that I wanted to say and get off my chest a little bit about the aftermath of all this. So Dave, I think we haven't heard from you yet much, so you should probably go ahead.
So I don't have much to add to what you said, Rob. You really nailed everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all they had to say, and we ranted about what JT Miller and his post-game presser right before the Olympics was, just come back with a better mindset. Like, he's so bad at this, and I'm realizing it's not just him who's an absolute moron. They're all idiots. Like,
yeah, they are.
I don't know how else to put this. Like, I get that sports are inherently political. We sing the national anthem before every sporting event. So just by that, they're inherently political. But I don't think these guys are smart enough to realize they were pawns in all of this.
They're not.
And that's why they keep saying, oh, why is everything so political? Why is everything so political? Well, for starters, you guys have no fucking idea what's going on. Read the room. Or perhaps maybe you don't know how to anymore because you make so much money. You don't know what the room is anymore because you're in a different one that we're not in, which is fine. I'm happy you guys are able to play hockey professionally and make 8-9 figures over the course of your career. That's great. I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy we won a gold medal. I'm happy I saw a gold medal win for the first time in my life from the men's side. And you know what? I'm actually even willing to give you guys a pass on being caught up in the moment on that stupid joke. Oh, maybe I got to bring the women's team over. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you're caught up in the moment. But do what Swayman did and say, listen, we got caught up in the moment. It was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
We should have had a better reaction. We own that. That's it. Everybody moves on. Nobody gives a shit.
Yep. 100%.
And that's it. Go to the White House. Fine. Nobody gives a shit. Everybody does it. Don't carry on that things are getting too political. Don't pull a Frank Saravalli and get all uppity because you went to the State of the fucking Union, which is a political fucking speech.
Mm-hmm.
You did that on your own fucking accord. And then you have the audacity to pretend like, oh, we didn't know it was going to be political. Fuck right off. And to be fair, and this is where I stand on all this right now, I don't even think this is politics anymore. This is right versus wrong. If you remove D's and R's from everybody's name, took a step back and looked at what's going on, and you still agree with all this, then you're the fucking problem. If you're okay with how everybody in this country is being treated right now, you are the fucking problem. This has nothing to do with politics. This is right versus wrong. People are getting killed. People are being kidnapped. Children are being used as pawns to get parents out who are legally going through the system. And you have the audacity to tell me that, hey, I'm making it political? Fuck off.
Yeah, and I also think to add to that, right, it's not just politics and it's beyond politics. This is also straight propaganda, right? So back to the point about the Soviet Union I made, like that was all propaganda. Like that's what the purpose of the Red Army team was to spread, again, like I said, Soviet dominance across the globe in the form of hockey, a sport that they dominated for 2 decades, right? And those guys were great players. Like, again, this is kind of the same thing. Like, and that's why it's such a weird juxtaposition and irony, right? Because like individually and as a team, like amazing athletes, like watching and I'm telling you, I will highly recommend the Netflix doc about the 1980s.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's really good. Like the footage is really high quality. There's really good, like I said, like high quality hockey footage, right? Like of the actual games and, you know, some of that exhibition game that was at MSG before the Olympics. And I mean, you watch the Soviets play and like, it was first of all, they were way ahead of their time. You know, they were playing like the modern style of hockey that we see today back then. That's why nobody could stop it. Cause it was obviously just a much different style of game. I digress, but the point being, like, to not have the ability to recognize that you are being used by a president and by an administration that like tries to essentially, like, you know, sanitize its, you know, its image, and also like wants to cozy up to, like, you know, winning and sports and like all these things, you know, to try and like, you know, goose their popularity. And that's all this was. Like, if you actually think Donald Trump like really cares that they won, like he's not watching fucking hockey. He doesn't give a shit. Like, this is not about patriotism. And that's why, like, you know, all this bullshit from Jack Hughes and Trocheck and all these guys, like, we were just so proud. Like, man, we're proud. Like, we're proud to be Americans, man. Like, winning the gold medal, that was just all about patriots. It's like, of course, dude, you're playing for the fucking United States. No one's saying it's not patriotic. That's not the fucking point here. The point here is that it went from patriotism to propaganda, and you were too stupid to realize it. So anyway, JL, you go, and then I think we got to be done with this, and we got to move on.
Yeah. So you guys kind of touched on a lot of what I was going to say, so I won't be too long on it. But I do agree that having Kash Patel, of all people, in the locker room is really probably one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
It was so dorky too, just really uncool.
Yeah, he's
fucking uncool.
Yeah, he's
bugger.
He's not. You know, I wouldn't even call him a dork, because sometimes being a dork is cool. He's just lame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's not even just like, you know, left or right or whatever. The guy's just bad at his job. Okay. First and foremost, imagine if, like, let's just say, I'm just gonna throw this out there. The Yankees win the World Series, and Henry Kissinger walks into the locker room after a game, and was, yes, the Yankees in the World Series. Like, no, come on, that was stupid.
And they start pouring beer on his head. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah. Yes, you know, the locker room should only be for the players, the staff, and, you know, even an extension of the families. You know, that's what it should be. You know, though probably the only one that you could probably say that's not part of all that gets a pass is the Gaudreau family, because they were
of course.
They were such an integral part to Team USA, right? First of all,
doubt.
Stupid. So miss me with all those excuses on that. I agree that they could have, you know, just kind of admitted their fault, you know, on a time where everything is recorded. They were drunk, you know, they weren't in the right state of mind. Still no excuse, but, you know, oh yeah, that was a mistake of ours. Let's get past it. Fine, whatever. But then you know, you get into everything after the fact where you have to kind of look at it, and you got, I mean, there's really nothing else I can say except the fact that all these guys, right? They're all incredibly wealthy. They make way more money than we'll ever dream of. They are in such a different reality, and this is not making an excuse at all. They are in such a different reality than all of us that it's more disappointing than anything because it just kind of confirms a lot of what, you know, we think about people in that space, right?
Yes.
That they're not very self-aware. So it's more disappointing because you can see that they're not really understanding what they're a part of, and you know, it's just more sad than anything because this is something that, you know, over the years, you know, we would hope players would get better, and some players have come out and have become a little bit more self-aware with things. And look, as much as we can't stand Jacob Trouba, I'll give him credit that he is incredibly self-aware with, you know, logistics and how people come across and whatever. But I just think that with the fact that there was a ton of liquor involved and the lack of self-awareness and the fact that, you know, there was probably some sort of weird pressure, and, you know, but these guys, they're all willing participants. It just kind of, it's just like a little bit of a wet blanket. For me, it it doesn't take away the epicness of the game itself, and I do understand where you're coming from in the sense that it kind of dampens it a little bit, but it's just kind of like it's just kind of like, well, damn, that kind of sucks, man. And it kind of puts a wet blanket on a little bit. You know, I'm still incredibly happy that they won and that they did it for, United States, but it's just these guys are stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. It's just the fact that the lack of self-awareness is what causes all this. Regardless of whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, independent, or whatever, if you want to really keep politics out of things, just be a little bit more self-aware of who you're bringing around and who's telling you this, and that, and the fourth, or whatever. These guys aren't the smartest, and that's how I rationalize it. Not that it's right, and not what they did was any more correct because they're stupid, but it's just they're dumb. They're just dumb rich people, and it's stupid.
Yep. Yeah. And look, I mean, herd mentality takes over, especially in the locker room. And even again, you can hear on that, during the speakerphone call with Trump, like somebody shouts 2 for 2, somebody says absolutely, like, and so even as there's sort of this like riled up laughter and like whether it's excitement, laughter, and maybe some of them didn't understand he was making a joke. Maybe they thought he was being serious. Right. So like it's hard. You can't really know what's in everybody's head at that moment. But
yeah,
I think to your point, Dave, and you guys both made the point, like you could handle it better after the fact. You could understand that it looked bad no matter what as a group, right? You all have to own that. And then and then if you apologize the right way, you can at least sort of begin to repair the image and make people believe that hockey culture isn't the cesspool that most people believe it is. But that's kind of what people think it is, and maybe rightfully so. So, look, I think we covered that. Again, still an incredible achievement by the U.S. Look, winning a gold medal, it's a once in a generation, once in every 2 generations thing. And look, having some Rangers be a part of that is cool. And but unfortunately, it got overshadowed by a lot of the stuff after the fact. All right, so let's get to some questions. Let's talk some, I assume, Rangers, unless there's more Olympic stuff in the questions. I don't know. Dave, JL, you guys tell me.
So
I have
you doing everything on Blue Sky too, JL, or you want me to read the Blue Sky one?
I have the Blue Sky one. It's only one,
okay.
Right?
All right, all yours.
Yeah, all right. So first of all, as I always like to say, thank you to everyone who not only listens, but also submits questions and also posts stuff on the website as well. We love answering your questions, especially if they're funny. I mean, not only if they're funny, but if they're insightful as well. And I will say, you guys give us some of the coolest questions to answer because it allows us to keep yapping. And if a podcast isn't as good as its yappers, then we're not doing our job. So we appreciate that. Okay, so first question comes from, again, one of my favorite usernames, the Gerard Gallant slander account at allentanderson.bsky.social, and he says that it doesn't look like Miller will start on LTIR post-Olympics. Do you still think it happens down the stretch at some point?
Oh boy.
Well, we'll see how tomorrow goes. Truth be told, I mean, honestly, all depends on how the first couple of games go. Depending on, I mean, didn't look like he needed it over the last couple of weeks, so I think that just kind of confirms our suspicions that he was kind of dogging it not to get injured so he can play in the Olympics. But has to see how he does once he, starts play tomorrow.
Oh boy. I'm trying to answer the question without letting my emotions get the best of me. So
yeah, look, Dave, I'll let you, while you consider your answer, all I'll say is right in the first 5 minutes of the USA's first game, the goal was eventually disallowed. Actually, two goals were disallowed, right? So, but JT made, frankly, an incredible pass through like three guys right on the stick of Quinn Hughes, right? Goal got disallowed. And I was texting with my brother, and the first thing, like literally as the puck went in the net, I get a text from my brother, and I'm paraphrasing here. It says, "Fuck JT Miller." He goes, he didn't make that fucking pass all year for the Rangers. And he's right. And look, I don't begrudge any Ranger fan for being mad at him, because he very clear, look, he got hurt in training camp. We know this. And I think he basically now has walked it the entire season on eggshells and been like, I'm not missing the fucking Olympics, and I will sacrifice an entire NHL season to make sure I get to the Olympics. And he has done that. And people are right to be angry. So anyway, Dave, I don't know if that was enough time for you to gather yourself, but that's my contribution to this one.
You're captain of the New York Rangers, ladies and gentlemen.
What a leader.
That's all. That's it. I can't go further, or else I'm going to derail this podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that your brother texted you, because that's exactly what happened in the group chat.
Yeah,
was we were basically, me, Tyler, I think Dave, and Hope, we were all kind of in agreement that this pisser over here is, we all kind of saw it coming. So yeah, I don't hate him yet, but I'm very disgruntled at how he's been.
Yes. It would not surprise me if he gets booed. Now look, he's coming back with a gold medal. I think that buys him some time, but like if the Rangers lose their first couple games out of the break, which is likely, he's going to be hearing a lot of boos on home ice unless he's playing at a really high level. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Gerard Gallant slander account, for that question. We appreciate it. Next question comes from, now we're on the blog. This comes from Spozo, and Spozo asks, are there any contracts on this team that they could potentially buy out? They have to be thinking realistic return to contention is 2+ years away at best. Then again, who knows what Drury is thinking?
I mean, aside from the obvious answers of Taylor Radish and Urho Vakanainen, because they're the easiest candidates to buy out, but they're only signed through next year, Will Borgen is the only one that they might realistically buy out, but a $4.1 million cap hit over the next 4 seasons with the rising cap, it's 4% of the cap at this point. I'm not losing sleep over it. I don't want him as the second pair defenseman. I don't want him as a third pair defenseman, but they need bodies. Just, I don't care anymore.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, like part of a rebuild or retool. And I know this is an ongoing debate about what it actually is, but like it is easy. And I'm all for playing young players. And I've been saying this, right? You've got to spam this roster with as much youth and speed, frankly, as possible. But like part of a rebuild is like, remember that first year after the letter, 18-19, a guy two guys logged serious minutes for that Ranger team. Mark Stahl still on the team, and Adam McQuaid. They went out and got Adam McQuaid. He was kind of like a Will Borgen type, probably a little bit less than that, to be fair to Borgen, right? But he was a veteran defenseman, kind of like a 6/7th defenseman. And they were like, nope, we're going to sign McQuaid, big body. He's going to play 60 games for us because we need adults. And you can't just play 19, 20, 21-year-olds, especially on your blue line. Like, cause then you just can't evaluate anything that's happening. You need professional hockey players, like NHL level players. So, and Borgen is that. So, again, not flashy, not a guy who we think is going to be around the next time the team is relevant, but that's probably right, Dave. I mean, look, the only other name that came to my mind was, you probably wouldn't do this, but like Lafreniere, like, do you just want to like cut bait and just be like, this didn't work, and let's just buy it out? I'm sure the cap penalty would be insane.
That's actually not that bad. So the cap hit for all intents and purposes, the cap hit is anywhere between 1 million and 2.5 million. The real savings is 27.28 with a $37,000 cap hit.
So that begs the question.
They're not going to buy him out. They're not going to buy him
out.
Has any first overall pick been ever been bought out? Probably not. What an end with
Alexander Daig? Maybe Alexi Yashin?
Rick DiPietro.
DiPietro. Oh no, Yashin wasn't a first overall pick. I forgot.
Rick DiPietro. That's good trivia, Rob. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good, actually.
I can't believe I had an answer to it. Woohoo!
I forgot he was first overall.
I'm really happy with myself. I got one of these random obscure questions that you guys always know, and I'm sitting here like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Congratulations, Dave. Your brain's working. If they bought out Lafreniere, you got to fire the guy. I mean, as much as I've been critical of Lafreniere, I still think that there is still some usefulness left to him. His metrics seem to be okay. It's just the puck's not going in the back of the net. That's it. That aspect of his game is missing, and that's obviously probably one of the most important. But he seems to be a pretty decent puck possessor. Drives play to a degree. It's positive. He's a net positive on offense. At some point, he just got to bury the puck. Other buyout candidates. Well, I was going to say Carson Soucy, but they traded him. It'll probably be Taylor Radish if they have to buy someone out, but I still don't think that they're going to buy anybody out and they're just going to trade them. So I think the teams will bite on any of those guys. Maybe Vakanainen is just.
Yeah, Vakanainen is the most realistic at this point. And somebody will take Taylor Radish.
Yeah, and the Vakanainen one disappoints me because he wasn't terrible. Like, he wasn't awful when he first came here in a really crappy system. But I don't know, something happened and he just kind of hasn't put up the numbers he was supposed to put in as like a bottom tier D. And with Will Borgen too, I can't be hard on him too much because he was really good at the start of the season. Then he got hurt. And I think that there's still something lingering with that that kind of affected the way, because he's a little bit more mobile as a bottom pair D. So I think he doesn't have that. He was a lower body issue that I think he had.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving him a bit of grace on that because he did really look like a really good defenseman early on this season.
Yeah, Borgen's metrics were good. That's true.
Yeah, so I can't hate on the guy, and like you said, Dave, that his contract is pretty much a small part of the cap, and the cap's going up. Panarin being gone, and a couple other players who might not be here. Depending on how they end up treating this offseason and how they draft, this team might be a little bit better next season than they were this season. But anyways, all right, next question. This comes from Nikki70. Nikki asks, the Minnesota Wild fan base is worried that they will trade Jesper Wallstedt plus more for Trocheck. Wallstedt is talented. Would you be in favor of trading Igor and having Wallstedt as the number one goalie and call this a rebuild? I will answer that right away. No. That's all I'm going to say. I'll let you guys harp on that.
I'll just take the devil's advocate, not knowing, or knowing, I should say, that like the trade market for goalies is often weird. Although again, like with Igor, I think you're probably getting a pretty decent haul if you trade him. Like, is that something like worth exploring? Because like you could get a lot back for Igor and it gives you like insane cap flexibility at that point, right? Because you're not paying the Igor Shesterkin contract for the next 8 or 9 seasons. It's not like the craziest thing in the world. But I just don't think I think that the Rangers have made their decision at goalie, and what I will say about that is they run you what happens here is you run the risk of if Wallstedt fails, then you are completely up shit's creek. And a lot of teams go decades. Look at the Philadelphia Flyers, decades upon decades without being able to find a real solution in goal. The New Jersey Devils, by the way, same thing. They just
Carolina Hurricanes,
right? And this is something that holds you back. And to your point earlier, Dave, about JL, about the goalie's part of the team, right? Connor Hellebuck, basically not single-handedly, but played a huge part in winning the USA gold medal. You can't just be oh, we'll figure the goalie situation out, especially if you already have it figured out. And now look, I am someone who has argued and I think can at least be objective about when they decided to pay Lundqvist. Yes, that did potentially hamper their ability to build a deeper team in front of him or around him. And now does the timeline of the Shesterkin contract match up with another contention window? And if it doesn't, what's the point of having a generational goalie when the rest of the team is can barely get out of its own way and is not even good enough to make make the playoffs as a wild card? So I think there's a real discussion to be had there, but the risk of leaving yourself completely exposed at the goaltender position if Wallstedt doesn't work out is probably too much for the Rangers to then to go about that sort of trade.
Yeah, I can't say that's a good idea right now because Wallstedt is he's an unknown. Goalies are voodoo right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's funny that Minnesota fans are thinking the Rangers are going to want Wallstedt when they have Igor.
Why would
they? That's the piece of this question that I'm not getting is, are Minnesota Wild fans drunk? You do know the Rangers have the best in my opinion, the best goalie in the world signed forever for a pretty decent cap hit. Next year, he's 11% of the cap. We're not, and like you said, Rob, the goalie trade market is wildly unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
So why would the Rangers trade the only one of two elite pieces they have right now for a maybe? I don't know. The Rangers have no interest in Jesper Wallstedt, period.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they're set at goalie. It's the one position on the ice that they're set. Starting goalie, I should say. Backup is in
starting goalie. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's important.
All right, JL, on to the next. Did we lose JL?
Oh, no.
All right, I'll read the question, since JL seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. From two-line actually, you know what? Since JL seems to have missed one that came in, I'll go back to the top. From Midline Shift, past or present, who is your least favorite Rangers player? Tony DeAngelo.
Nice. Yep. That's definitely right up there. Ooh.
Ron Duguay is starting to get up there, but I know I can't I hope he recovers from his stage 4 cancer. Nobody wishes this on somebody, but the way he conducted himself during the pandemic, he started climbing real fast.
Yeah. Obviously people were not fond of Tanner Glass, but also Glass seems like a decent guy, and
he was a good dude.
Yeah,
I just didn't like that how he was used.
Right, exactly.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, he's alive.
Hey.
I'm kidding. By the way, my mic just stopped working, but I'm here.
This is we had a new question that came in, although it's not geared towards you since you are Mr. Positivity, but who's your least favorite Ranger, past or present? That was the question that Dave just
geez, I got a couple. Oh man.
Nice. I don't have any. Dave got mine with Tony DeAngelo, so we're set there.
Well, that was one. But I did hear Dave say that. For some reason, I didn't like Donald Brashear.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I didn't like him either.
Yeah, I didn't like that because that was bad.
Yeah, well, they brought him in after all the bullshit he pulled with Shanahan. Yeah.
But also, so not only did he pull that stupid stunt with Brendan Shanahan. Donald Brashear is your typical what you would call a goon. And I don't think he was very good at the game. You know, he may have scored a couple goals here and there, but he was nothing to write home about. But what people, this is what really stuck, you know, him in like my craw, or however you say that, was during the playoffs, if I'm remembering that correctly, and he hit Blair Betts.
Yep.
It was a dirty
elbow.
hit. He elbowed him and he broke his orbital bone, right? And then
turned the series around.
Yes, it did. And he pretended as if he was this sort of victim, which I'm like, dude, you're a freaking fighter. You're not a victim. You're a goon. You suck at hockey. You know, at least George Laraque was likable as a player, even though he was also a goon himself too. But George Laraque, and I mean Donald Brashear, was just awful. You know, and then when Glenn Sather signed him, you could tell it was like an odd fit, because you could see that he didn't really fit, and the players were probably, there was a lot of the same players that were on the previous year's team to the next season. You could tell it was kind of like, I don't really care for this guy, and he wasn't here long. Donald Brashear can go kick rocks.
Love that.
But Tony DeAngelo too is the one that I just cannot stand. And yeah, but you know, I could go for hours about that. So, all right. Well, now that I'm here, I'll read the next question again.
We're up to 2 line passes, just so that you're.
Yeah, I was reading it, and then I realized that it wasn't registering. So anyways, 2 line passes asked, if plus minus is so irrelevant, how come people look at it as a stat and use it in arguments? What are its pluses and minuses? Haha.
Wow.
And is being awarded a plus when you are just on the ice like a participation medal? That's a good question, actually.
So, just a generic statement, just because somebody uses something or does something doesn't mean it's smart.
Yep.
That's fair.
So, the issue with plus minus is that it doesn't actually measure. People use it as a defensive stat, and it doesn't actually measure defense, because you can jump on the ice mid-shift and just happen to be jumping on the ice during a 2-on-1 and a goal gets scored, and now you have a minus. Same thing with goals scored for your team. So there's just too much, I guess it's instability with the stat. And I think the best example I can give is Marek Malik led the Rangers in plus minus in the 06 season. He was not the best defenseman on the team in 2006. Like, I love Marek Malik. I thought he was hilarious, and that shootout goal is one of my favorite memories. But he led the team in plus minus, and Michael Roosevelt, I think, was second on the team in plus minus that year. I need somebody to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure Malik led the team and Roosevelt was number 2. But you're telling me they were better defensively than everybody else on the team? You're telling me that they had a better offensive game than Jaromir Jagr? Come on.
Right.
Like, that's my issue with the stat.
Yeah. They would have been playing with Jagr a lot, so that would have probably juiced their plus minus, right? So so let's look at this. You're talking about 05, 06?
I think so.
The first year out of the lockout. So Roosevelt led the team plus 35. Jagr second at plus 34. Nylander third at plus 31. Malik fourth
at plus, that led it. Okay,
plus 28.
Sorry.
Plus 28 was Malik was fourth. Yeah, and I mean, look,
I was off on that, but close enough.
No, yeah, but either
my point is still made.
Yes. And look, yeah, I think that's the point. It's a team level stat. It also is not equally applied, because you get a plus also if you're on for a shorthanded goal for, but not if you're on for like a power play goal against or a shorthanded goal against, right? So like
empty netters count.
Right. So it's very flawed in that regard. What I will say is, like, I generally throw it out. So let me just say that. I will say, if a guy has like a really high or really low plus minus, I think that's a little bit of like, at least an indication that you should look at like why that might be. Right. It's like, but like if a guy is hovering around like even, or if he's like +3 or like -4 on the year, I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like it doesn't tell you anything. But if I look at a team's, stat sheet and one player is like +46 or like -22, I'll be like, okay, that's interesting. I wonder why. And then you kind of go deeper. And so maybe it's kind of like a little bit of like a surface level indicator of performance, but like it's not something to like bank on. And it's certainly not predictive of any sort of, future performance.
And the best example for this year, Mika Zibanejad is by far the best forward the Rangers have this year. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. He's a -21.
That's insane.
And he will probably finish with a worse plus-minus this year than last year because he had a -22 last year, and that was his quote-unquote worst season of his career, at least Rangers' career.
Wow.
And he's rebounding very well this year. He's had a phenomenal year. He's a -21. So I think that's another great example of just saying that stat is wildly flawed.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of covered it. I don't think I have to add any more to that, honestly, because I'll just be repeating anything you guys said. So I agree. So, all right, next question comes from Blue Shirts, and they ask, where are all the trades? Should we put Mika, JT, Fox, and Igor on the shelf, or LTIR to tank for McKenna? I don't think they need to put him on the shelf.
Why is the rum gone?
Yeah.
Where are the trades?
Yeah. I don't think they have to put them on LTIR. The team's just going to tank on its own. So,
I mean, I don't think they should be playing right now anyway, at least Fox and Igor. These guys, we have injury scares with both of them every year.
Yeah.
Just shelve them for the year.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to look, the league does look into it. Obviously, the Rangers wouldn't be playing cap games here. Everyone is very familiar with the way Vegas has, subtly and not so subtly manipulated the cap via LTIR, with Mark Stone's back getting out of whack in January and then being magically fine by every single April. And that raises eyebrows, rightfully so. Apparently the league looks into that stuff. So like, you can't just put guys on LTIR. But I agree with Fox and Igor. There's a long enough injury history. There are current injuries that they are managing. They don't need to play every game. This is the other thing that like, I know everybody like, looks down upon it, and maybe rightfully so, but the way how, baseball players get lots of additional days off. NBA is famous for load management, right? These are grueling sports. You can argue the merits of that and whether it helps prevent injuries and whether it's bad for the game and certainly bad for fans who are expecting to see star players play and then they're not playing. But like, there is no rule in the rule book that says Adam Fox has to play every game from here to the end of the season. Same thing for Igor. Like, why not give normally Igor would play 65% of the games. Like, why can't it just be a 50-50 split, right? Like, let him in quick split time and just save the wear and tear. But like, look, if they're healthy, they're going to play. They both practice fully here in the lead up, at the end of the Olympic break. The team is bad enough that they don't need to fake injuries though. And the tank is already on. This team is not going to win a lot of games between now and the end of the year.
Watch them win 25 in a row and make the playoffs.
Well, then we'd all be happy. So I'm not going to.
Yeah, that we would be.
Well,
I think we'd be happy about that.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, that would be fun. I mean, that would be historic. So it'd be something. It would be actually an accomplishment worth celebrating.
Right. Yeah. I said what I had to say on that.
I'm just surprised Trocheck hasn't been traded yet. That's the only thing right now. I figure everybody else is going to go down to the wire. I think Schneider and Lafreniere don't get moved till the draft. But yeah, Trocheck is the only one I'm surprised by.
It's like I said, Dave. I don't think they're going to trade him. They should trade him. I don't think they will.
There's still a week and a half until the deadline.
I know, but
I think they're going to get blown away too. At least what look, and maybe I'm being an idiot here for believing insiders and certain things that you see on social media, but apparently there is going to be a true bidding war. And I think, to your point, Dave, I think maybe you're expecting someone to essentially blow them away now, right, and cut the line to get this done. But other than that, I don't see why Drury doesn't just wait it out. Wait the extra week and a half, get as much as you possibly can.
Well, should have done that with Panarin too, but I guess that situation is a bit trickier than what he has with Trocheck right now.
Yeah, and they
So
still could probably should have waited on that. I think we
I
Yeah, they
definitely
should
covered
have.
that.
Yeah, we covered that. They should have waited.
All right.
Well.
Next question comes from Dreary Got Fleeced. That's a Dave special right there. Will the Rangers get back to the postseason before 2030? Yes.
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 I think they will.
The East are so bad. The Rangers, like, you give it another. I don't think Drury is going to master this retool or rebuild, but I do think he's going to do enough to get the Rangers back into the playoffs and maybe win around. But I don't think he's going to be good enough to build a cup contender.
Yeah, and also look, they have the goaltending. Like you said, the conference. This can change, but the conference is definitely the weaker of the two, and these things, especially in a cap league with a draft, with just the volatile performance from middle of the roster type guys, you'll get one of those years almost by accident where like 2 or 3 guys have a career year, and like Igor's a Vezina finalist, and that'll be good enough to get them in the playoffs.
So it's like I said before, is the way that I approach the Rangers right now is how I used to approach the Wilpons with the Mets. Is there was never really a plan because of their hubris and their stupid egos. So year after year, it was always kind of like see what's going to happen. You would have to hopefully have them luck into something.
Right.
I think
if everything goes right, this could be a great year, kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that this team has this team still has talent, even though it's a little older. But with the fact that, like you guys said, the East is not as potent. They could realistically luck into a playoff spot. Now, if they go between 1-4, 1-5, and get Stenberg, McKenna, or Tynan Lawrence, which I think Tynan Lawrence is the key here because he's a center who is projected to be a number 1 center. And they're able to nab another winger, top flight winger, Jason Robertson, other et al. Type of winger. Realistically speaking, with the rest of the depth that they have, you can get one more defenseman, whether it's Drew Fortescue or someone you sign, and then fill the rest out with guys like Edstrom and a couple guys from Hartford. They're not a bad team. It's just things aren't going right. There is still talent on this team. Can they win a cup? Who knows? Probably not. But there is still some talent that can be, used for this roster. And it's a lot different than when they were selling off the assets in 17, 18, because all those guys were old. These guys are not at that sort of like peak yet. This core hasn't gone to 10 playoffs in a row, or they haven't been running ragged through. There's still some juice they can squeeze out of that. So yeah, I think they'll make it before 2030. Okay, next question comes from Barry R. Green, and Barry asks, will the remaining Russians waive their no movement clause to have a chance to win now that Panarin was traded? No, not really.
No.
They know what they were getting themselves into. No.
Yeah, I don't know where this Gavrikov stuff came from, but
yeah,
Elliot Friedman is where that came from.
I don't know. I don't see that happening.
So basically, I guess just to reiterate it, because we did talk about this last week, there was a I guess a repost of something he said on a podcast in regards to, I guess, talking about the Rangers and moving stuff around, and that Gavrikov felt like he might have been duped or lied to, or he might have reconsidered. But then again, Igor knew this team was bad. He's re-upped. Gavrikov, probably, maybe losing Panarin wasn't exactly the best thing for him to see. Fine, whatever. It's the business of hockey. But he willingly chose to sign here. He didn't have to come here. The Rangers went after him. He said yes, and he's here.
Do we know also, like, did anyone else offer a comparable contract or more money to Gavrikov? Or not?
I have no idea, actually.
Right? Because, like, frankly, like, he's a free agent. I know Panarin kind of sold him on the thing, and I'm sure the Rangers sold him on the vision of playing with Fox, and that was going to be a top defensive pair on a team that they firmly believe would and could and should make the playoffs. but also like, dude, did you just take the most money? Like, probably the Rangers had the most money. They traded Keandre Miller to make the space and on the roster and in the cap. Like, they traded Chris Kreider to make the space. Like, and they gave you that money. So that was your decision. And like, if he wants out, like, okay, they can get something for him. Like, I'm not like emotionally tied to any player anymore, but especially Vlad Gavrikov. That said, look, that seems far-fetched to me. Like, I do think, these guys do have families that they look to sort of get settled, and, both him and Igor are Russian players. So there is still a fellow Russian on the team. As we just said before, I don't think the Rangers are in any hurry to get rid of Igor Shesterkin. Yeah, I don't think this comes down to the fact that Panarin left, so now there's going to be like a mass exodus of Russian players. Yeah, I can't see that happening.
So just to correct myself, it wasn't Elliot Friedman. It was actually Mike Rupp on a podcast, Daily Faceoff. And Mike Rupp said that he heard some rumblings involving Gavrikov and how the current state of the Rangers isn't necessarily what he signed up for.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's not the case.
Yeah, and even if it's not what you signed up for, fine. Like, it's a shitty year, but you come back next year and you try to do better.
Yeah, be part of the solution instead of the problem. That's it.
Yep.
So, I think that's
be part of the solution. Don't be JT Miller.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we went through all the questions. Yes. So yeah, that's all the questions that we had. Thank you again, everybody, for taking the time out to send those out, and we'll keep doing that. And we appreciate your input.
All right. Well, Rangers hockey is almost back. That should be exciting.
Don't remind me.
That's exactly the reaction I was looking for, Dave.
Funny part is I'm actually debating on potentially going to the game if I get a good offer.
I'm going to try and get to a couple. Yeah, well, I'm going to try and get to a couple games too before the year's out.
I know I'll be to one for the Play Like a Pro fundraiser, which I'm still waiting on the confirmed date, but I know I'm going to be a one at some point in March.
Oh, nice. Well, let us know. Maybe we could have a big meetup. And if we do that, we'll let our any listeners who happen to go to games, maybe that we could chat with them too. But no, look, the real story is the trade deadline. We will have our usual wall-to-wall coverage on the blog. Dave, I think we'll discuss maybe some sort of trade deadline special podcast, either, maybe not live, but certainly in the immediate aftermath of that. Should be lots of good stuff to talk about there. And we'll see if this retool/rebuild truly gets off on the right foot. Other than that, Dave, JL, any final thoughts?
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm going to quote Harry Potter here. And yeah, I know that there is some irony in quoting anything by J.K. Rowling, but bear with me. We're all going to be faced with deciding between doing what is right versus doing what is easy. Take a step back and make sure you do what is right.
Well said.
I like that. Profound.
I guess my final thought, and I feel like I'm doing an episode of Jerry Springer, is, and it's about the Olympics, because I pretty much said all I said about the Rangers. I mean, I yap about it as much as anyone, so I have to let this out. Canadians, I love Canada. They're our neighbors, but you guys are delusional, because you want to get on, and this is speaking hockey, strictly hockey. Okay, you want to bag on, all of these things about how it's not fair, 3-on-3 is not fair, this and that and the fourth, and making excuses. But I think someone had pointed out that they didn't play well because they didn't have Sidney Crosby. Okay, that's fair to some extent, but you're telling me that a team with Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, and even Macklin Celebrini couldn't beat the United States on a 3-on-3 overtime? Please save the bull crap. Okay, that's dumb. It's so dumb. JL,
you got next Olympics. You got to do like your own. You got to do just a daily podcast.
Oh,
you got a lot of thoughts.
I was thinking about that this time around, but I didn't just
Yeah.
have the time for it. But I guess
4
I
years
guess
from
my
now,
life,
let's start plotting that out.
I guess my life will be a lot more different in 4 years. I hope I'll be what? I'm 32, so I'll be 36. Oh gosh.
You'll still be podcasting. That's there's
Of
no age
course.
limit.
Yes.
There's no age
So
limit.
that's my final thought.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And we will talk to you next week.